What's going on, guys? It's Hi with the Upper Left USA, and I recently got a chance to go visit Antelope Canyon in Arizona. Now, this is not my first time in Antelope Canyon, but the notable thing about this trip was that I was shooting film, and on this particular occasion, Kodak TMAX 400. If you've never been to Antelope Canyon before, it is something that I would highly recommend you do, and if you enjoy the great outdoors, Antelope Canyon is definitely one of those places that will provide a lot of excitement. The only problem is that you can't just walk up to the canyon and start poking around, taking pictures and all of that. Due to people desecrating the canyon walls and deaths via flash floods, the canyons themselves are actually closed to the general public. The only way to actually get to the canyon is via a tour held by the native Navajo people. These tours are actually somewhat difficult to get into as they are booked months in advance, and if you do try to book one, there are usually two types of tours, a sightseeing tour and a photography tour. The sightseeing tour is, as the name indicates, really only for sightseeing. It's really difficult to get images like this, where you have an empty canyon because you're in a big tour group with no in-between time. You literally just walk from one end of the canyon to the other. You're not allowed to bring bags or tripods. In my opinion, a tripod could be critical for the canyon because it can get pretty dark in certain sections, and especially if you're going later in the day or at a certain time of year when there isn't as much sunlight. Having a tripod will of course allow you to get those longer exposures and really control the light. The photographic tour, on the other hand, is very different. The one that I went on requires a tripod, but you are also not allowed to bring a bag. This is very much about the one body and one lens setup, so just be prepared. The nice thing about going on the photographic tour is that you're in a small group. When I did it, I think there were only 7 people in my group, so you're able to play with different angles and locations within each chamber of the canyon. Also, something that's extremely beneficial about the photographic tour is the fact that your tour guide will stop traffic in order for you to get those empty people-free photos. In my opinion, if you're trying to get some good photos of Antelope Canyon, the photographic tour is a much better option. But it is also much more expensive than the sightseeing tour, and also much harder to get into. Booking in advance is the key, but you never know, you may get lucky like I did. I called like an hour before the tour started and got into the photographic tour with a discount. All that being said, I actually went on the sightseeing tour this time around because it was the only option available, and I'm actually pretty satisfied with the experience that I got. My tour was at 8 a.m. and I think this really helped. My tour was one of the first ones of the day, so there was barely anyone in the canyon at the time. I was able to get those people-free shots of the canyon effortlessly. How these Antelope Canyon tours generally work is you walk from one end of the canyon to the other, turn around and walk back to leave. These tours generally last about an hour or so, and by the time it was my tour's time to turn around and walk back, the canyon was filled with people. This is where having the photographic tour would really pay off. Shooting film was an interesting experience in Antelope Canyon. If this were my first time in the canyon and I wanted to have some really high quality photos for my portfolio, I probably would have shot digital. I definitely would have at least shot in colors to show off the colors of the canyon, and I will still have the option to convert to black and white if I wanted to. But since I've been to Antelope Canyon before and have a bunch of digital images already saved, I thought it would be interesting to switch it up and use TMAX 400. Prior to getting to the canyon, I thought about pushing to 800 but decided to keep it at 400 to give a more accurate representation of the film. This of course made shooting extremely difficult in the darker portions of the canyon. My shutter speed often dropped down to an eighth and a fourth of a second, and like I said, tripods were not allowed, so I had to handhold. I'm honestly very surprised at the amount of sharp images that I was able to get handholding at such a slow shutter speed. For this roll of TMAX 400, I was using the Nikon f100 with a Tamron 24-70 f2.8. The wide portions of the lens really helped to stabilize the slower shutter speeds, but I also often shot at 70mm. I think having stabilization in the lens really helped here. Using this particular setup was very calculated, and I'm glad that it worked out. This is actually my first successful attempt at shooting Kodak TMAX 400, as every time I use this film, something seems to go wrong. Last time I was in Japan shooting this film, thought that everything was going right, then come to find out that the Nikon f3 that I was using wasn't advancing the film properly, so I ended up with nothing. This time I actually thought that this roll was going to be messed up because after successfully shooting the roll and developing it, I actually dropped it on the ground and thought that I would end up with a bunch of dust and scratches everywhere, but overall it was still not that bad. So overall, I haven't had such a great history with Kodak TMAX 400, but hopefully that changes because I bought this, a 100-foot roll of TMAX 400, and have committed to using this film as my everyday film for my everyday walk-around adventures. For those of you who don't know, some manufacturers actually sell film in 100-foot rolls, and you essentially have to cut and roll this film into the film canister yourself. For me, there are two benefits to actually bulk rolling film yourself. The first benefit would be for those who don't like to shoot in 24 or 36 exposures, as that's pretty much the common number of frames that you get when you buy an individual roll of film. Let's say you want to shoot 10 or 15 frames at a time, you have that option when you bulk roll, as you can pretty much roll as many frames as you want into a single canister. The second benefit would be, of course, price, as bulk rolling can save you almost half the price of a single roll of film. This is a little bit different when you buy Kodak films, however, because they seem to price their 100-foot bulk rolls for pretty much the same price as your individual canisters, so there is really no point in buying the 100-foot rolls if you want to save money. I, however, was lucky enough to get this 100-foot roll on sale. So after calculating everything out, a 100-foot roll of film generally gives me around 20 rolls of 36 exposures. So for me, this roll actually gives me 20 rolls of 36 exposures for around $3.50, which is a lot cheaper than market value for one single roll. Overall, I'm pretty excited to try this film out, as there is a lot of hype and a lot of positive advertising around it. I mean, just look at the box. World's sharpest film right on the front of the box. So I'm pretty excited to try this film out to see what it can actually offer on a day-to-day basis. That being said, you can expect to see a lot more Kodak TMAX 400 based videos in the near future. So if you're interested in that, definitely subscribe to this channel for more content. And as always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it around, comment down below with any thoughts or questions that you may have. Thanks for watching this video. I'll see you guys next time.